A man goes to a doctor and says he's been feeling tremendously sad. He says life seems hopeless and pointless, and he just felt so alone. And was there any cure for that? The doctor tells him the world's greatest clown Pagliacci is in town, and that the man should go see his show. That should cheer him up. The man then bursts into tears and says, "But doctor, I'm Pagliacci." Hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode about entertainment and mental health. The anecdote about Pagliacci is often told to illustrate the paradox of the sad clown. Why do so many great entertainers and comedians suffer from depression? Is there a connection between humor and mental illness? And what role does entertainment and media play in mental health? I talked to Nathan Santos to get his insights on these questions and more. Nathan is a professional host, magician, and all-around entertainer. He has also been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and is one of Keep Going Baguio's volunteer advocates. This is Loffy, and you're listening to episode 9 of the Keep Going Baguio podcast. The show must go on. So we're here today with Nathan Santos, and we're going to be talking to him about entertainment and mental health. So hi there, Nathan.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here today. So first of all, can you tell us about yourself and your background in the entertainment industry?
Okay, so I'm Nathan Santos, and I started out as an events host here in Baguio back in September 2014. And then a couple of years after that, I went on to being a magician and a animal trainer here as part of my act for kids parties. So I've been in the industry for 6 years professionally, but prior to that, I was like doing street magic, as a hobby. Aside from doing events here in Baguio, I still like do some shows in Manila from time to time, and also, of course, out of Baguio. And I'm a member of the Magicians Foundation Incorporated, the biggest and oldest magic group here in the Philippines. So sila na yung parang naging established na haligi ng kiddie party entertainment industry here in the Philippines, which we are also celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
So you said you also did street magic before. So saan ka nag-street magic?
It started out as like a stress reliever lang back in college, because my friends back in college, they were like magicians. They were like doing card magic, street magic. Kasi that was the time na usong-uso si David Blaine.
Yeah.
Ganyan nun, di ba? All of them were doing magic. Then syempre I was like, no, OP. So sige na, I'll start learning magic na rin. We started performing like street magic in school, on the campus, and then like pupunta kami SM Baguio, we're like going to like perform to strangers. Tapos yung pinapalayas kami ng guard kasi bawal daw yon. Tapos bawal daw cards sa sa SM. So diyan naman po namin binili sa Ace Hardware yung cards eh. So nag-start yung ganun.
Parang siya, no, peer pressure pero in a good way kasi
Yes,
natutunan mo yung something like this, the craft of magic and entertainment. Okay, so let's talk naman about mental health and how it relates to entertainment. So in your case, how does being an entertainer affect your mental health, and also vice versa? So how does your mental health affect your being an entertainer?
I was first diagnosed with depression a couple of years back, which turns out was I already had depression when I was 13 years old. And then when I got another consultation, it turns out I had bipolar disorder. So let's first talk about na how my mental health affects my life as an entertainer. So of course, as we all know, bipolar disorder is like depressive and then like mania. So of course, when you're having depressive episodes, it takes a toll on me professionally, because it becomes harder to be on stage because it feels like I'm like dragging everything, and parang you lose all sight of why I'm an entertainer in the very first place. Na parang the only reason I'm there is because I'm paid na eh. I can't say no na. So I just have to get through it. And it feels more like na I'm just acting na lang. I'm no longer like the entertainer. I'm just like an actor pretending to be an entertainer. The whole act doesn't feel genuine for me anymore. And of course, with the manic episodes, it's great because you can be very productive. It's like a complete 180. You're a little more into the performance. You're a little more into making people happy. I think I go the extra mile when it comes to performing for people. I would like accept like 2 to 3 shows in a single day if the opportunity permits itself. Because I feel like it doesn't matter. I'll be able to do this if I haven't eaten the whole day. Ang tawag nga namin, altanghap. Kasi almusal, tanghalian, hapunan, isa in one go na lang after all the shows. So, yun. Sometimes, syempre, you run on adrenaline, and having like a hypomanic episode, it just fuels you. Plus, you're more productive when you're like not having shows. Kasi I think of other things to do for my shows. I think of like other tricks. Yun. So, and so vice versa naman, di ba? With regards to how being an entertainer affects my mental health. Well, it's very therapeutic for me kasi like, yeah, it's hard when you're having depressive episode. Pero when you're also in that moment, there is also that feeling na you're making all these people happy, and they're all laughing, they're all enjoying the moment. No matter how much I feel down, it preps me up na even just for like a couple of hours, I completely forget about my depression because I'm so focused on entertaining people and people like loving what I'm doing, people enjoying, people laughing. And of course, I end up enjoying it too. I end up laughing too because I feel like when I'm on stage, when I'm performing, there's intimate connection between each and every person on the audience because I talk to them, I'm like perform to them, I'm opening up this whole part of me that I don't normally show to a lot of people. Well, technically, I do show it to a lot of people. But, I'm not normally that person.
Right.
How being an entertainer affects your mental health negatively naman siguro. I don't think being an entertainer has had any negative effects on, like major negative effects on my health as an entertainer. But of course, there are still those moments na when you're like having a depressive episode and you're an entertainer and you see people having shows and you're not like getting any shows, but at the same time, the reason you're not getting shows is because you're not accepting shows. Pero syempre, di ba, when you're like having a depressive episode, your reasoning goes out of the window na. So, kumbaga yung kanta sa Lion King, di ka tunnel, digdig, gatano. You keep digging the tunnel na just so you could keep justifying yourself like you're worthless. So yeah, it happens na parang you have this like insecurities, you have like this jealousy. But aside from that, wala naman talaga yung like major negative effects of being an entertainer.
You are very open about your mental health, you're having bipolar disorder. So, ano yung mga kinonsider mo muna? Like being an entertainer, like what made you decide to be open about your mental health while having siguro mga doubts then about how it might affect your career?
Yun, syempre kasi the entertainment industry, so show business. Sabi nga nung song na ginawa ng a magician friend of mine, magikerong Pilipino, artistang hindi kilala. Technically, we are artists and we are like artista talaga kasi we go to shows, some people know us, di ba? We're very public person. And syempre, as a public person, when I first was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, like yung depression natanggap ko pa kasi nung una. So sige ka ako yan. I understand why I would that. I'll show it. Turns out I had depression. And then I was very like quiet about it talaga. The only people knew were like my online friends who were very close to me, or like not even my family, not even like anyone. Because syempre, the entertainment industry is kind of very cutthroat, syempre.
Yeah.
I guess with any industry naman there are those like who would really use anything to, you know, like go above you, to just like put you down. I guess that comes with any kind of job you take or anything you do. But yeah, it started out na I was really afraid to like let people find out because of course, why would you hire someone society sees as someone who is crazy, someone society sees as very unstable? When someone has a mental illness, the first thing that comes to your mind is, you know, those people who are shouting like, di ba, sa streets,
Yeah.
or like yung mga ganon, di ba? Yung, the typical like Filipino view of someone who has a mental illness. I felt like, yeah, I need to keep this under the wraps. Kasi if people find out about this, my career might crumble. People might, you know, people who don't like me might use this very much against me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there came a time na when I was like asking for help na, because like I wanted to find a psychiatrist here in Baguio, but I was very much afraid to ask for help from anyone because I was like, what, in my first or second year of my career, I was just starting out. A couple of hotels knew me, so I didn't know who to talk to. So I'm glad like I accidentally came across the Baguio Mental Health Support Group, and meeting people with those group, meeting Manong Ari and Chelsea, being great friends with Chelsea, and they kind of inspired me na they're very much open with their struggles, and maybe I'm just overthinking things. So, and then one day I decided na maybe I should be open with it na lang, because I believe that the first step to recovery is acceptance. If somebody's like listening to this and they think, wow, does it mean I have to be open about it when I accept it? No. It's that doesn't mean you have to like be very open about it. Acceptance is just accepting and acknowledging that you actually have a mental illness and there's nothing wrong with having one. So after meeting them, I decided that maybe I should be open about it. And if people have a problem with that, na they wouldn't want someone like me on their shows, then I thought na the problem really isn't with me. It's the problem is with the people. The problem is the lack of information, the lack of understanding, which also comes to the reason why now I'm very, very much open with having a mental illness, because right now I'm a mental health advocate. And since I went through a lot of hardships, I went through a lot of the judgment, the stigma, all that was included when I was starting out with having a mental illness. I wanted to now fight for the people who were like, who couldn't speak out, you know, who didn't know how to put it into words. And I felt like I had this duty na, as someone who is a public person, that I already have this means of educating people. I already have this avenue to let people know that, yes, I have a mental illness. And so what? I'm still pretty much a functional member of the society. Much more functional than at times. I'm much more productive and much more functional than other people. So yun. I guess the fear was clouded with the fact that I put this responsibility on myself. Yeah. I really have to let people understand that there's nothing wrong with having a mental illness, and we're pretty much just like you. We're just wired differently.
Yeah. So that's great na you can use your platform, kumbaga, of being an entertainer, but also use it for mental health advocacy. And so there's an old saying that goes, laughter is the best medicine. So what are your thoughts on it?
Laughter is the best medicine. One of the biggest cliches na natin yan And yeah, I think for someone like me, it really helped a lot, because even my psychiatrist and my psychotherapist said na it's amazing daw na how no matter how I feel this overwhelming amount of depression, still am able to like go on stage and make people laugh. It helps me out mentally, and like I guess scientifically speaking, like laughing and literally just enjoying things, smiling, releases a lot of serotonin on your brain. And sometimes just the act of smiling itself helps you get through a lot of things. Now, when people like know about my, the story of my life when I was a child, some people like tell me na I have this teleserye buhay daw talaga kasi with everything that happened. It's amazing how I'm still able to keep on smiling and now keep making people smile, because yeah, at the end of the day, no matter how like dark life can be, if you can smile, there's still this hope. As long as you can smile, you can still have hope that everything's gonna get better. Now, whatever you are experiencing right now, there's still a tomorrow, and there's still a sunrise that's coming up, and you have to face that sunrise with a smile on your face, because that sunrise may be an indication that this is your time now. This is the darkness is now over. So yeah, laughter is one of the greatest medicines, especially for someone who feels down.
Yeah. Also, meron yung tinatawag nila na 'di ba, laughter yoga.
Oh yes, diba? Nauso na yun.
Oo, laughter yoga. We tried it noon sa Manila. Si Kate's from ADSP kasi
Mm.
she underwent training for laughter yoga, and then she sort of gave us a taste of it. Tapos parang oo nga, parang nakakagaan talaga na
Mm.
even though like you're not really laughing about anything, pero yung fact na tumatawa ka tapos makita mo yung katabi mo na tumatawa, parang it's also light and happy.
Kasi aside from being a magician, I studied mentalism, because mentalism is like an aspect of magic. Now you're like the mind reading, you're like using psychology and all that, and being a mentalist is like part of it is like studying psychology, reading human body language. That's where I learned na, kasi di ba we have this statement na I think therefore I am.
Yeah.
Yes, it does apply, but not really, because sometimes what you do physically actually affects what you do mentally. Na like for example, there was an exercise nga in a book I read na how to read people's minds, na magkunot ka ng noo tapos you hold a fist na like super, yung parang galit na fist kahit hindi ka galit. Eventually, if you keep that for like a couple of minutes, mamaya makikita mo naiinis ka na rin, naiirita ka na. Kasi according to like psychology, what you do physically can actually affect what you do mentally. Kaya the mere act of doing laughter yoga will actually affect your mental state. Kasi nga, you're laughing, you're tricking your brain, technically. You're tricking your brain. Okay, all the physical responses are telling me that I'm happy. So, I might actually be happy right now. So, parang ganon.
Ay, ang galing. Oo nga, kasi usually, di ba, we think na how we are feeling inside, yun yung na-project sa outside.
Mm-mm.
But pwede din na what we are projecting will affect what we are thinking. So, galing. Okay. So, there are like many successful entertainers and comedians who are also known to be suffering or have suffered from depression. So, like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey. So this kind of gives credence to what they call like smiling depression or yung sad clown paradox. So what do you think is the link between humor or comedy and depression?
That's a very good question, because a lot of the people I look up to, like Robin Williams, Carrie Fisher, may their souls rest in peace. They're like amazing entertainers. They know how to make people laugh. They know how to make, like in their interviews or like when they're doing stand-up. Turns out some of them like had bipolar disorder. Some of them were like suffering through depression. And I feel like there's also this cliche then when you have this very, very tragic life, you're great at doing comedy talaga, especially in the stand-up world. I remember Daniel Sloss an English comedian. On his stand-up, he was like saying that he did not have any struggles when he was a child, so it was hard for him to be a comedian. He didn't have this very dark past that would help him become a great comedian, because a lot of the great comedians had very, very dark past.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel that because I was born well off, and then my whole family's business crashed. So from being, upper class became borderline low middle class. And then, I lost my parents early and all that, had depression. But I feel like a lot of the times, the people who are really good at making people laugh, the real reason behind it is because we know how it feels to be truly unhappy. I'm not saying this applies to everyone. I can't speak for Robin Williams. They're the greats. I don't know what they did. I'm speaking in my own experiences. The reason why I feel like I'm good at making people laugh is because I know how it feels to be unhappy. I know how it feels to be in that very, very dark side. And I kind of work a little harder, or like I go the extra mile more than other people, because I don't want people to reach that. And as long as I keep on giving laughter, I can make people forget about their problems. I can make people forget about, even just for a couple of hours. And also because that during those very dark times, the only salvation that I had was making myself laugh. Because if you can't make yourself laugh, even in the darkest times, you can't make other people laugh. And if you can't make yourself laugh, even on the darkest times, then you'd easily lose hope. I feel like a lot of the times, those great comedians, no matter the circumstances, no matter how dark their life can be, they still had this moment where they made themselves laugh. Even if someone who is in that very dark place can make themselves laugh, then it's gonna be easier to make people who are not in that same situation laugh. That's why, a lot of the times these comedians are, very self-depreciating. Like, their stories are about the stupid things that they did, or like the mistakes that they made. And like when they tell stories, they usually like make themselves the butt of the joke. Like, even if it's happening to like a group of people, they still make it somehow that bad thing happened to them, but they still made a laugh about it. I feel like most of the times, those who go through a lot of dark times, it became our coping mechanism to make ourselves laugh. That also turned out to be a great skill for making other people laugh.
And that reminds me of another podcast. It's one of my favorite podcasts. It's called The Hilarious World of Depression. It's based in the US. And then they interview comedians and entertainers who have depression. Ang ganda nung mga discussion din nila doon. Like what you were saying, yung why a lot of them are funny, and the material they use, yung sariling life nila and their own dark experiences, but they somehow manage to turn it into something entertaining and funny.
You probably know the classic symptoms of depression: sadness, fatigue, lethargy, low mood, hopelessness, loss of interest in things. But did you know that a person can look perfectly fine, appearing happy and content to everyone around him or her, even to close friends and family, and at the same time be suffering from depression? Some call it smiling depression, although that phrase is not used by mental health professionals. The closest recognized medical term is atypical depression, and according to the study, Depression with Atypical Features, Diagnostic Validity, Prevalence and Treatment by Dr. Frederick Quitkin, up to 40% of people suffering from depression appear happy and upbeat on the outside, but feel low and hopeless on the inside. Why do people mask their depression with a smile? It may be for a variety of reasons, such as fearing judgment, not wanting to burden others, and wanting to protect their careers. Smiling depression is especially worrying because it can go undetected and may worsen over time. Also, the risk of suicide may be higher. Someone with the classic symptoms of depression may lack the energy to create a plan and follow through, but individuals with smiling depression are high functioning and likelier to act on their suicidal thoughts. So, how can we combat smiling depression? The first step is to be aware that this condition exists. Depression indeed has many faces, even smiling ones. I hid my depression for 2 years, but through proper treatment and a good support system, the smile on my face now matches how I feel on the inside. If you or someone you know is experiencing symptoms of depression but are hiding it from everyone else, please know that help is available and that there is always hope for getting better.
Nathan, what can you say about how mental health is portrayed in entertainment or media culture, specifically here in the Philippines? So, when it comes to, let's say, books, movies, or TV shows, what can you say about how mental health is portrayed?
Okay, about that. Considering we've actually made strides, we've done more about educating people about mental health in this pandemic alone than we've done in the past few years. Let's be honest about that. Especially, we're coming from a very religious-centric country where a majority is Roman Catholic. I also came from a devout Catholic family, so I think I can speak from experience about this, that I was 13 years old when I was showing signs of depression already. But of course, during those teen years, a lot of people think that it's just teen angst and it's just the effect of, my mom just dying. So I was very irritable. I was angry at everything. I was like shutting myself out. A lot of the times, we just shrug having a mental illness off as kulang ka lang sa dasal. I'm not trying to, invalidate the efforts of religion to help someone with a mental illness. Pero that was like a part of the stigma when I was like experiencing it growing up. So I've noticed this pandemic has greatly emphasized on the need for mental health. And now let's go before the pandemic. Before that, most of the time, the media, especially here in the Philippines, when it comes to mental illnesses, like in teleseries, the very first thing I would think of pag may sinabing nagka-problema sa utak is amnesia. That's one of the cliches. Nagka-amnesia. Or like multiple personality disorder, pero hindi siya fully diagnosed ng multiple personality disorder, but rather a character trait. Yeah, so ganyan mga portrayal yan. Or the worst kind, the baliw. That has always been the typical view of anyone who has a mental illness. About the baliws, yung tumatawid, sumisigaw, those kinds of things. But lately, I've seen a lot of strides with regards to Philippine media. Because even like during the Holy Week, I've seen like religious programs finally accepting that having a mental illness is real. Depression is real. Na it's not just prayer that you need. Prayer will help you, but there are other things that you would need to help you cope. And also, I've seen shows like, I think it was Magpakailanman. They featured a story about someone who has a mental illness. This past few years alone, when a lot of people have been very open about their mental illness, which I guess I'm thankful for. I guess Kylie Versosa, I think she's the only one I really know who's very, very much open with it about having a mental illness, right? And she openly speaks about it. I think the Magpakailanman episode was just like last year, and now more and more people are starting to understand. I guess it also comes with the change of the generation, because a lot of the younger people now are very much more aware about their mental health, and now they want to educate more people about it compared, to the boomer generation or like the millennials, the Gen Zs. Plus, we now have this mental health bill, right? This mental health law. And that alone shows that people are now understanding that this is something real. And I think people are still afraid generally in media to tackle it, because I guess this is still a very new subject for them. But considering a decade ago to now, the media is now actually handling it better. I've seen documentaries about, someone who has like bipolar disorder, someone who's like depression, and it's amazing na people are starting to be more understanding now, also thanks to media itself in the Philippines. And more, they stray away from the stereotypical baliw now. The more the media strays away from that generalization, the more people will be understanding, and the more people will be receptive to asking for help.
So there's some improvement naman from years ago. Baka kumukuha na sila ng like psychologist or
Yes,
psychiatrist na
na
consultant on their
consultants.
shows para they could portray mental
Oh,
illness or give justice to how they
kasi
portray mental
may
illness.
cancel culture na ngayon na usong-uso. So, syempre, pag maling
True.
portrayal, baka yun din. Baka yun din isang naging fueling factor. And I think this just happened a couple of years ago, di ba? Yun, like in Eat Bulaga, and
Yes.
props to Min Mendoza na she called him out and then, educated him about depression. And the following day, Joy De Leon apologized and said it is the lack of information, his ignorance about depression itself. And that itself is amazing because it just shows na how ill-informed people really are about all these things. And once we use that, use the media in itself to inform people, then we'd have less people, judging and, making those very unsavory remarks about people with mental illness, especially in, social media.
So, of course, he's such a well-known, parang haligi ng entertainment dito sa Philippines. But it's so important to have someone to stand up to yung mga misconceptions about mental illness. So, nga, talagang si Maine Mendoza. Buti nandoon siya at nag-speak up siya on that topic. Okay, so this will be our last part. And so, Nathan, one of the worst hit sectors during this COVID-19 pandemic is the live events industry. So, without a doubt, it's one of the worst hit. So, can you tell us about the struggles of those working in this industry, so including yourself, and how can people help?
Thank you for taking this into light because, the live events industry is definitely one of the hardest hit because nobody is allowed to have mass gatherings, and a majority of us makes a living by, going to mass gatherings, hosting, like performing and all that. And it's like we're kind of one of the most neglected right now because there isn't really any contingency plans about what will happen to events. And we do understand that because what matters most now is to end this pandemic or at least manage it. But it just hurts na sometimes society makes it's our fault that we were in an industry that was very volatile because it's a freelancing industry, and like some of us have no day jobs to supplement this. But my rebuttal to that is nobody expected this. This is a whole pandemic. But the struggles right now is we're not sure when we can go back to doing this thing that we love, because I know I speak for a majority of the people in the entertainment industry. We got into this not because of monetary reasons, not because we want to be famous, but we want to pursue our passions: singing, performing, hosting, being on stage, or like me being a magician. This was our passion. It just happened to turn into our jobs. And with the uncertainty of this whole pandemic thing, the uncertainty of when can we get a vaccine, when will the government allow it, like even small gatherings, I feel like this might last for quite a while. And I guess for a lot of the entertainers or people in the live events industry, a lot of us right now are looking for jobs they can do till the events come back. But the problem I see there is once they've established those jobs, everybody will have this dilemma now. Am I going to leave my job to go back to my passion? Or do I just stay this? Because right now I feel like people will be paranoid, especially people in the live events industry. What if this happens again? Maybe we should reconsider our choices. But I myself will definitely be going back to the entertainment industry right after this. No questions asked. Because, like I said, it's my passion. This has already changed society as a whole, but this will change live events moving forward even more. Because we might lose a lot of, entertainers. We might lose a lot of performers because they couldn't support themselves during this pandemic. So that is what was very heartbreaking for me, this whole ordeal, that people kind of have forgotten us. This might sound like a little too off to some people, but we were there when people needed someone to make them happy. Or like we spent our whole lives to entertain a lot of people. We devoted our lives to people. And right now, we're not even at a crossroad. We're in a dense forest with fog, and we're not sure where our future is headed to. And I'm just glad that there are, those groups here in Baguio, specifically, the Baguio Wedding Suppliers Group had this fundraising campaign for Baguio event workers. So they were like asking for donations, and they're very transparent about it. There are these groups in Facebook right now, like the Give to Baguio Event Workers and the Baguio La Trinidad freelance event workers movement, who've been going the extra mile, like asking for donations and giving, relief goods, donations to people like me who in the entertainment industry who have no work right now. So I'm glad for them. So let me just say their names again. So if anybody is listening to this and you work in the entertainment industry and you might need help, please do look up on Facebook, the Baguio La Trinidad Freelance Event Workers Movement, or Give to Baguio Event Workers. So these are all public on Facebook. You can go ahead and join the groups and maybe register as one of their beneficiaries to receive some relief goods. And also, if you do have some extra money or you have some things so you could donate, please, you can go ahead and contact those. And right now, I just also want to say thank you to everyone who has been helping out the events industry here in Baguio, to everyone who was our clients in the past. Thank you, guys. And to my fellow entertainers, or to my fellow workers in the event industry, I know that we can get through this. It might take a while. I know it will definitely take a while, but we can all get through this. The city itself, it's getting back on its feet slowly. And I'm looking forward to the day that, we can go ahead and have gatherings again, and we can go back to doing the things that we truly love.
Good. So, yes, and we'll put a link in the description of the podcast, so we can link the pages that you mentioned so people can visit it and donate and see how else they could help. Do you have any final words?
First of all, thank you very much for letting me be part of Keep Going Baguio. And it has truly helped me out in my advocacy with mental health. So I just want to say thank you to Keep Going Baguio for letting me host your events and, be part of you guys. And I guess my parting words is pretty much not just people in the entertainment industry, to anyone who has a mental illness. I just want to say that you're not alone. And if you feel like, your life doesn't matter, your life matters. And a lot of people are here willing to help you out if you need help.
So thanks again so much, Nathan, for sharing all your thoughts and insights and experiences, for being very open about mental health, because I feel like you are really making a difference when it comes to awareness and inspiring other people.
The ability to entertain and make people happy is truly special, and something we need more of now more than ever. But let's not turn a blind eye to the very real struggles of those in the entertainment industry. There is no medical consensus on the link between humor and depression, and we certainly don't want to romanticize mental illness by saying it could make great comedians out of people. But what is important to note is that no one is immune to depression. not even the ones who seem the funniest or the happiest. So check on your friends, or better yet, normalize mental health issues. Have conversations, educate yourself and your community, support grassroots efforts, and like Nathan, use your platform to spread awareness and destigmatize mental illness so that no one will ever feel compelled to hide their true emotions. I now leave you with the song Pagliacci, composed by Rhett Miller and performed by yours truly. This has been Loffy for Keep Going Paglia. Thank you for listening. Guy goes in to see a doc, says there's something wrong with me. I got as sad as I can shake now. Is there something I can take now? Doctor has a think and says he might know just a thing. There's a performer here in town, and he's the world's greatest clown. Laughter, as we all know, is the best medicine. Guy says, Doc, that's the problem. What if I was to tell you I'm Pagliacci? This great big smile is just for show. What if I was to tell you this is just grease paint? Would you say I'm a hopeless case? Say it ain't so. Would you say I'm a sad clown? Tell me something I don't know. Laughter, as we all know, is the best medicine. Gas is dark, that's the problem. What if I was to tell you I'm Pagliacci? This great big smile is just for show. What if I was to tell you this is just grease paint? Would you say I'm a hopeless case? Say it ain't so. Would you say I'm a sad clown? Tell me something I don't